Alright, I don't have my mic with me, and it's windy as well, and yeah, so I don't know if this recording is going to just be a complete write-off or not. Perhaps it will be, and worst case scenario, I get to just have a little vent for myself, because I guess that's what it's going to be, a vent that is kind of a continuation of the previous recording, whatever. Same themes as always anyway, isn't it? Just misery, patterns of misery, and the seeming impossibility of effectively circumventing them in any real lasting way. So I'm just going through my daily rituals here. Things I'm doing to just, I don't know, fill the time. Because I have to do something. Even doing nothing is doing something. I get so sick of doing the same things over and over again. I mean, I'm just running at the sort of baseline, doing the bare minimum of things for the most part, and that's bad enough, without adding anything to it, as I have for whatever fucking dumb shit reason decided in air quotes to do recently. Which just makes everything so much worse. And even, there's no easy out of it either, as a thing. Just trying to get out of that situation is also just going to be a whole other mountain heap of shit in itself. Every step of the way is shit. To do what? To fix the shit. But I just created more shit in the process, so that can't really be the way out, can it? Yeah. Which I already knew, but here I am anyway. And it's weighing on my mind all the time. All the time. The fact that I'm in a situation that I don't want to be in. And the fact that, okay, well, yeah. So there's the primary situation, right? I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to be here existing for whatever fucking reason, accomplishing seemingly nothing for no reason. And then I've gone ahead and created a further situation of shit on top of that, which is sort of, it's not just a situation, self-contained situation of shit in itself stacked upon the primary situation of shit being my existence. It's this thing that I've moved into, that I've embarked upon, is actually, as it turns out, a shit factory. It produces shit, and it will not cease to produce shit. And that's what kind of most things do, in my sort of estimation, my experience at least. Every action one engages in the world, every situation one places themselves in, is in a roundabout way, some ways more direct than others. Shit factory produces shit, produces problems for oneself, but with the promise of some sort of reward in return. And most people, that's enough for them. That's enough for them to get that little hit of dopamine or whatever, or social approval, which, dopamine still, right? And, for me it isn't. What I do seem to get out of it is so minuscule in comparison to the experience of pain and suffering I feel from the problems that are engendered by it. And I guess I just don't really value it. It's hard to value it when it's dwarfed by suffering for me. And I guess it isn't that way for other people, right? Because otherwise it would be perhaps the same way as me. I don't believe that I'm just, somehow inferior in my capacity to deal with these things, or some way immature. For the most part, I'm inclined to believe that it's actually probably the opposite. Maybe if I feel particularly kind of arrogant on that day, right? But the real, the question is what to do. Once I do extricate myself from this situation, which I inevitably will, because, I don't, from past experience, right, when my mind has kind of obsessively latched on to this idea of how horrendous the situation is for me and the problems that are being brought about by it, the only way I'm going to get any rest from that is by terminating that state of affairs and extricating myself from them. So it's going to come to an end. It's just a question of when. And so when I do, what am I going to do? Well, I have some ideas, but I've always had ideas, and some of those ideas I've tried to execute, some of them not. They've just remained in the domain of fantasy, which, as it happens, I sort of am inclined to believe is the best place for ideas of all kinds, of all flavors, shapes and sizes. Keep them safely tucked away in fantasy, in the realm of potentiality. Don't try and live out your dreams. Don't try and accomplish anything. Just be as little as you possibly can. Be as if you were not. Be as the unborn are. Which is, sort of how I've been living my life before fucking doing this shit again. Of going through the motions of being a human being, or rather a human doing, I should say, as is the case, as is what interaction within society in these times makes of one, renders one a human doing, doesn't allow people to just simply be. There's an expectation that one be directing their energies towards something useful, contributing in some way to this enterprise of society, of human civilization. Because non-participation indicates, at least implicitly, that you don't condone this enterprise, and that calls into question the legitimacy of this project, of this enterprise. And if other people start to question it and withdraw their energies from it, it begins to collapse, which in part is actually what's happening around the world in different societies. I've already spoken before about the phenomenon in Japan, China, the let it rot or lay down and rot thing, and the hikikomori stuff. People are just recognizing the same things that I'm talking about here, but this is just, there's nothing in it for the individual. It's all about the queen bee, and that's not really a fair deal, is it? So why bother? Why bother? the only difference with what I'm saying, what these people are saying, is that I extend that to the entirety of experience, the entirety of being, that this phenomenon of society, of civilization, is just sort of a refinement or an extension of what is already occurring on a more broad and horrific scale, and that has been for millennia prior to all of this garbage, with cities and industry and technology and so on. Division of labor. It always was just a crock of shit. And I think it's pretty irredeemable. So, yeah, ideas of what to do once I inevitably withdraw myself again from this carnage, this horror, at least, in one way, right? I withdraw myself from this more structured state of things, structured horror, structured carnage, to the more chaotic, unstructured carnage just of being itself, raw being, nature, you might say. And, so what will I do? Well, as close to nothing, I think, as I possibly can. Because nothing grabs me. There's nothing like how in the past there were things that I could see in front of me, things to anticipate, things to motivate me. Now there's nothing. Nothing at all, but just more of the same, monotony and senseless pain and suffering, toil to just be. A lot of people who are more embedded in society and have never really had the opportunity, like myself and others, to be at a kind of remove from it, hold on to this idea that in some way, one day, right? I mean, for many people it's this idea of retirement, for others it's this pie in the sky thing of going off grid and living off the land, and thinking that there's something intrinsically valuable to life apart from what they're unfortunately presently enmeshed within. And in many respects it's worse. It's much worse than what they're presently enmeshed in. At least there's the element of distraction is always at play, even if isn't necessarily pleasant. It presents itself in the form of overstimulation and stress, as well as, of course, in the forms of technology, entertainment, and so on. But and of course, there's also, there's something. You have the hope, right? You're afforded the hope of having hope, of something beyond, something more that you can do, something outside of the situation that you're presently within. There are other situations, other places to go, other ways to go about this. That once you've gone and been within those other places, once you've had a taste of that, you see that it's just the same thing. It's still bondage. I've spoken about this already, but I'll touch on it again because it's relevant. Very interested in anarcho-primitivism, and just more specifically just thought that living as the ancestors did would be a better way of going about things, would be more conducive to overall life satisfaction, sense of purpose, and so on. And that it would feel liberating to live in such a way. And so I pursued that for a while in different ways. And yeah, after having had a taste of it, kind of came to the unfortunate conclusion that it was just more of the same thing, that it's just a different kind of prison. Just the perimeters of the enclosure are much broader, right? One has more space to roam, but one isn't actually free. It's still a prison, one is still a slave. You can be a slave to the system, to corporations, to different businesses, right? Or you can just be a slave to your body, slave to its needs and hungers, its appetites. There isn't really an escape, not one that I've found, not one of the things that I've pursued. It's very problematic to not feel that there's something ahead, something to motivate.
Oh, wait a second. I'm going to be crucified, right? I'm not going to raise my voice because I'm committed to the Lord. I love you.